Unfinished projects. Don't you just love them? And well, here's one of mine actually. I've had this bike for quite a number of years. It's a Triumph Sports Cub, and I bought it as a non-runner quite a few years back now, but more recently than the other three that we've seen so far. And if I remember rightly, this one cost me £450 as a non-runner, and it was fairly complete as you see it now, but it had a different engine in it, the number of which matched the frame number, but unfortunately the crankcases were quite badly damaged. I suppose not beyond repair if you really wanted to throw time and money at them, and I've still got them to sort of keep with the bike, but I put another engine together using a lot of the internals from the original, and this engine is a full Sports Cub spec engine. It's got the R camshaft and the 9:1 piston, close ratio gears, all sorts of other stuff. It's all correct, and I did actually have it running. This is a runner, but there's a bit of play in the swing arm bushes, and I had no paperwork for it, so it wasn't going to go on the road as soon as I got it running, and I had other things to do, and it ended up where it is, unfortunately. But realistically, there isn't a hell of a lot to do to it to finish it off, and it's not impossible to get paperwork, so maybe I should get my finger out. But have a look at the engine. Like I say, I had it running and I rode it up and down the lane here, and I remember being in first gear crossing the railway line and sort of slipping the clutch, and as we got across I released the clutch and opened the throttle, and much to my surprise the front wheel came up in the air a little. It didn't stand vertical, but it did get the front wheel off the ground in first gear. I'm not trying to make out it's any sort of rocket ship, but pretty lively by Tiger Cub standards, and even by Sports Cub standards. It's got a lot of power, I remember that, and the compression, I can remember that I could actually stand on the compression on this one, and a clue to that might be, as well as the Sports 9:1 piston and the R Sports cam and the various other things, you can see it there, just look how close the top fin of the barrel is to the bottom fin of the head. Now, I haven't done anything to it, but I think someone in the past possibly has, and I think the head has been skimmed to close it down, bring it closer to the top of the cylinder barrel and raise the compression even further. But whatever was done to it certainly made for a very powerful and lively engine. And I also remember I fitted that straight through pipe. That's an original factory accessory, that tailpipe, and I do remember it sounding rather good too, so maybe I should get my finger out and get something done with that. But I'm working my way through them. I've got 3 of them on the road now, as we know, and I've got a few other projects. I suppose we might as well have a look behind it. There's another one whose engine I also fully rebuilt. And that one actually has got paperwork up to date and in my name, but I'm up to my limit on bikes on my insurance policy at the moment, but maybe at some time in the future I might take one off and put that on instead, who knows. And you just see another one there behind it. These sometimes appear in my videos incidentally, and people ask about them, so here they are. I'll go around the other side, we might get a better look. The one at the back, that one's also a runner. That one was just bought by a guy I know who was passing through in his van. I think he bought it. It came off the same guy I bought the yellow one off, actually, and a deal was done, and much to my surprise that one actually has an engine that sounds like brand new. I haven't touched that engine at all, but that's another runner up there. What else have we got? I can show you one down here. That one, I suppose I don't like that term either, but that's a stalled project. And basically I've owned that bike, I think I was 17 years old when I bought that one for 140 quid. That had a lovely metallic purple frame. It actually looked quite good, the frame, dark metallic purple. It had a sort of metallic lime green and purple tank. Various other things of various colours dotted around it. It didn't look great. It was, or basically had been, an SH Sports Cub at one time. Well, it still is, but when I bought it, it was in a terrible state, and it even had mismatched shock absorbers. It had one shock absorber from a Sports Cub and one from a Road Cub, so one was about 1.5 inches longer than the other, but they must have had to really force some weight down on the seat to get one of the shocks on. It had chromed heavyweight forks which had seized solid. It didn't charge. The engine seized up 2 or 3 times on my ride home after buying it. It was an absolute disaster, this one, and soon after buying it I re-engined it, and I used it on the road quite a bit. But another strange and unpleasant thing about it was the electrical system on it. When I bought it, was not charging. So when I got home I popped the headlamp out to have a look at some of the wiring in there, and it had the big PRS8 switch with all those wires in it, and unfortunately every wire on the bike was red. So yeah, when I got it, that was a bit of a nightmare. But in recent times also the frame was bent and twisted. That was a reason for scrapping this bike years ago and using parts off it to donate to other ones, like my Trials Cub and my Sports Cub replica, which my original Sports Cub also donated much of his parts to. But we've spoken about that one, so I'm hoping to sort of spend some time on this again soon and finish this off. But the engine in this one's fully rebuilt to sports spec with a 9:1 piston and the R camshaft and the close ratio gears as well, so that engine should be pretty close to what the yellow one was capable of. It should go a bit, certainly, so I must get that one finished. Then we've got that very late Sports Cub there. That one's got the extra heavyweight forks on it, and it's also got the double gusseted frame, whether you can see that or not, but it's one of the last Meriden frame type ones before they went over to the Bantam Cub and the Super Cub. And that again, that's got the 9:1 piston in it, the R camshaft, close ratio gears, it's all correct. And like I say, I rebuilt the engine in that one. That's a good runner, but that was another one that had no paperwork, sadly. But half the battle is having these machines. And then we come to my old friend here, the one that started it all off with the Tiger Cubs, of course. And upstairs in the loft I've got another one of these, all in bits. It's almost rusted. Well, certainly not beyond repair, but I remember when I bought it, wheeling it out of the shed that it had been in, that fell down on it, the wheels actually started collapsing as we rolled it. The spokes had sort of rotted away like toothpicks on it, and the fuel tank had rusted through, and that takes some doing on one of these because the metal of the fuel tanks is very, very thick. But the story was, there's not much to show actually, as I say, it's upstairs, but I bought it along with a Royal Enfield 250 Crusader in similar condition to it. And the story was, it was a bike shop. It was Pritchard's of Llangabelloch Road in Swansea that had them, and they'd been brought back at about a year or two old by owners who'd come of age or passed their tests and traded them in. And the Tiger Cub and the Crusader had both been put away in this shed and been there for some 40 odd years by the time I got to them. But the Crusader, incidentally, I'll try and dig that out sometime. The engine in that, I think it's done something like 13,000 miles from new. The speedometer's still connected and working when you spin the rear wheel. There's clean green oil in the engine turns over with compression, but the bike looks almost rotten, and the mud guards and the tank, things like that, had rotted away on it. But that's another project. But I need to focus on living to be being around 200 years old to finish this lot off. But I'm working on it. I've got more of my own bikes going now than I ever had in a long time, and I hope to have some more fairly soon. But that's a little tour of some of the machines of my own which I've got on my plate to deal with, just in case anybody's interested. And all being well, perhaps we might see one or two of them out and about and moving under their own power one day in the near future, if I can find the time to do it with all the other stuff I've got going on. But there's my Tiger Cubs.